Well, welcome everybody that I can't see or hear out there, to periodic irregular reports from the North American Butterfly Association, otherwise known as Welcome to the Twilight Zone. We're going to go over a number of areas today, and we're going to start with something not really very much has happened recently, so I thought I'd start with stuff that happened a while ago and give you some background for those of you, there may be some of you, I don't know, who don't understand the genesis of a lot of what's going on. And so we're going to start with walls. The walls for us, this is what you're looking at is actually a screenshot of Stephen Colbert, part of a Stephen Colbert show one night. That's what you're looking at. The wall situation goes back to July 20th, 2017. And on July 20th, 2017, the Mariana Wright, who's the executive director of the National Butterfly Center, which we all is our place, she was out on the grounds and she came across these contractors cutting down trees and shrubs on our property. What's going on? And they say, we're here to, clear this for building a wall. And naturally, she was very alarmed. And she called me, even though I had told her not to call me because my wife was about to die and did die the next day. So, that was the beginning of this whole thing. It turns out that they were hired by the government to do this, even though they had no legal authority to do it. I mean, that is to say that the government could have taken our land via eminent domain, started proceedings and done that and done, the various environmental stuff, but they had done nothing. They just decided to go there and do this. And so, later that year, as I say, that was July 20th. Later that year in December, we filed a lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security. And in that lawsuit, we were and are represented by a large New York City law firm named Debevoise and Plimpton. And, we filed this lawsuit saying, because they were completely, they were going to build a wall through us. They had no authority to that. They hadn't taken our land or done anything. And plus, Border Patrol was basically acting, it was like a police state down there, and it still is. And they were telling us we couldn't go on our own property and visitors couldn't. So we filed this lawsuit. Wait a minute. It's funny, this didn't go down now. All right, I don't understand this. We filed the lawsuit and against the wall, and we became sort of a major gathering ground for people that were opposed to the wall. We were opposed to the wall because, here they were basically, it was like, you have a child and somebody's going to take your child and saw it in half, which is what they were going to do to us, put this wall through us. And so naturally, we were opposed to having our child sawed in half. But other people were opposed to the wall too, and there were lots of rallies and so forth. This is a photo of a Rio Grande Valley indigenous group named the Carrizo Come Crudo. I took this picture, I was there at this rally when the police the Border Patrol and the police tried to arrest us all, tried to arrest Mariana and so forth. So we were kind of a lightning rod for a lot of the protests against the wall. Let's see. This did work this time. And then the government decided, you know, they would try to take our property. You know, they sent down surveyors, they sent down appraisers, and then they sent down negotiators, and that's me with my eyes closed in the sun, and Mariana there in the red tartan skirt, and people from the government. They the main guy flew down from DC. You can see that they've got another, you know, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in this photo. What you can't see is they were really 15 people in SUVs, agents on horseback, because clearly Mariana, I, and me, this, you know, 70-year-old man, you know, posed a real threat to them. And so basically they were just trying to intimidate us. That might have not completely worked, actually. All right, so the wall stuff went on, and we're going to get to it. And because we were opposed to the wall, that led to a lot of people, you know, attacking the Butterfly Center and Mariana and the North American Butterfly Association. And during that time period, this goes back like to 2018 and 19, there were lots of threats there and people coming down and showing up and doing stuff. And we're going to get to what developed as the main threat in a minute. But before I leave the wall itself, I wanted to share this with you. This is a photo that we took, North American Butterfly Association, took on January 7th. This is a photo taken by a drone that we sent out over the El Murillo unit of the U.S. Lower Rio Grande Valley National Wildlife Refuge, which is a unit of the refuge that's immediately adjacent to the National Butterfly Center, just to our west. It's our neighbor to the west. And that canal you're looking at, that's not the river, that's a canal. The river is about a mile to the left in the picture, looking at the picture, which is kind of southwest. So they're building these walls, that's another thing to understand, more than a mile from the river, ceding all of the intervening land to Mexico. But the thing that you want to understand here is this was taken just last month. Those of you really paying attention to the news will know that last month, Donald Trump was no longer president and Joe Biden was president, okay? And this wall that's being constructed here is being constructed by the Biden administration. Now, when pressed on this, they say, oh no, they're doing repairs to the levee. Let me tell you straight up, this is a lie. There was nothing done to the levee that needed to be repaired. They are building a wall. And you notice the huge enforcement area here, which is like sort of like the East Berlin, the area by the East Berlin Wall. So they've destroyed all of this area in a national wildlife refuge right next to us. And this is ongoing as we speak. So I just want you to be aware of that. Another thing is this. Recently, you can see this headline. I forget where this is from the Texas Tribune a few days ago, talking about deplorable conditions in an unclear mission. Texas National Guard troops call Abbott's rushed border operation a disaster. So everybody is saying that. So again, I don't know how much you all pay attention to the news, but all of this affects the National Butterfly Center directly, and that's why I'm bringing it up. But the governor of Texas, Abbott, sent down months ago National Guardsmen to enforce, to deal with immigrants in the border. This was his idea. Lots of people thought this was a terrible idea. Everybody is saying, oh, Abbott's doing this, Abbott's doing that. Well, it turns out that all of the Texas National Guard is actually under the authority of the U.S. government and Border Patrol. So I'll show you this in a minute. This is a Texas National Guardsman trespassing on our property. They have absolutely no authority. We're private property. They have no authority to be on our property. But there they are trespassing, and they often do it with the Border Patrol. This is again, a few weeks ago. This is a truck that was driven by Texas National Guardsmen who were either drunk or inebriated on some kind of chemical, because a normal person does not drive their truck into that gate. and as you can see, the gate is not exactly invisible, but they did. But the point about this is when the National Butterfly Center employees confronted the National Guardsmen in there, said, "What are you doing?" and stuff. "We need you to leave," because again, they were trespassing on our land. They said, "No, we're not listening to you. We take orders from Border Patrol." And then so the executive director called the head of Border Patrol in the region. He came down and told them to leave, and they did. What does all that mean? Again, what I am saying to you is that the Texas National Guard that everybody thinks is, this horrible thing done by Governor Abbott, it's actually complicit. The Biden administration is complicit with this whole thing. And I'm saying, the reason I'm saying all of this is not any side of anything, just because people don't understand. No one seems to understand this, and it matters for us because we have to live there. Anyway, again, trying to explain how all of this happened recently. The fact that we were opposed to not a wall in general, but we were opposed to a wall destroying the Butterfly Center, brought us to the attention of a group called We Build the Wall. And this group was founded by a guy named Brian Colfage, and it included a guy named Steve Bannon, who you may know of, and others, a guy named Chris Kobach, who was the Secretary of State of Kansas. And they formed this We Build the Wall to raise money, supposedly, to build a private wall along the border with Texas, or the border with everywhere, and then give it to the government. Well, it turns out it doesn't work that way. You can't do that. But they raised in very short order $25 million to do it. And again, not to belabor this point, but the principals involved, that is Colfage and Bannon, were indicted because they apparently took most of the money for themselves. They didn't actually use it to build walls. They took most of it for themselves. But, and then Bannon was pardoned. But they did build a little section of the wall in Sunland Park, New Mexico. And because the Butterfly Center was opposed to it, they started attacking the Butterfly Center. And not only did they attack the Butterfly Center, they did two other things. They decided to target the Butterfly Center to build a wall next to it, basically as screw you people. And at the same time, and even more importantly, I guess, they started to they made up these lies that the Butterfly Center was a sham operation. It really had nothing to do with butterflies. It was a cover operation for sex trafficking and raping babies and narcotics trafficking and stuff like that. So they actually said all of this stuff out there. And all of those lies are what has caused the present situation. So what you're looking at now is, as I said, they tried to build a wall next to us, and they contacted the landowner who owns the land adjacent to us on the east side, and he decided not to allow them, not because he wasn't sympathetic to them, he was and is, but because it wasn't in his economic interest. But the next landowner over, a fellow named Lance Newhouse, did work with them and had them build this. So they were starting to build this. So we hired a hydrologist to determine what effect, if any, this would have on us. Because again, the Rio Grande floods, and for example, in 2010, there was a big flood that flooded our southern acreage that was south of the levee. And so we were concerned about this. So we sought their advice. And what I was told by them, by these world-class hydrologists, was that it was very likely that this structure, if built, would in fact cause more significant damage from any future flooding than if it wasn't there. And so because of that, again, we felt it necessary to try to stop this. And so we sued We Build the Wall and Colfax, and we also sued them. We sued them for prospective damages for nuisance, but we also sued them for defamation because they were spreading these lies about the Butterfly Center and about the executive director, Mariana Wright. So those two lawsuits are still ongoing, actually, but that's the genesis of this of where all of this hatred and lies started, because these people kept saying this, and you've got a bunch of Looney Tune people in the United States who believe stuff like that. How anybody could believe it is kind of it's amazing, really, but they did. And let's see what we got here. So so if we go forward to the very recent times, a few weeks ago, actually it was 2 weekends ago, I guess it'd be the week before 2 weekends ago, there was going to be that weekend, and there was a rally by this far-right hate group. I mean, they're called, I don't even remember their name. It's something like Women for America. But it's basically a group that, again, believes in, that Democrats eat babies and so forth like that. And they were having a rally in McAllen, Texas, which is the next city over from where the Butterfly Center is in Mission. And the headline speaker for it was Mike Flynn, who was federally convicted and then pardoned by Trump, basically a traitor to the U.S. Anyway, ahead of that rally, people started showing up at the Butterfly Center, and for example, this woman showed up who was a candidate for Congress from Virginia. I believe she's now withdrawn from the race, I think. She showed up and started trespassing on our land, going around and without paying, and refused to pay, and then came into the building and accused Mariana of wanting, doing, sex trafficking, repeating all of this nonsense. And so, of course, Mariana, we told them to leave, and there was something of an altercation. And apparently, this woman tried to run over the executive director's son with her car. So that's all being investigated by authorities, local authorities, and the FBI, actually. And how that will end up, I don't know. But because of that, we looked into this woman, and Mariana found a photo of this woman with somebody else who she knew. And so she called the person she knew, who had been an official with the local Republican Party. And he told her, and his daughter is currently person of the Hidalgo County. That's the name. That's the county that the Butterfly Center is in. Told Mariana that she really ought to get out of town this weekend because he had information that the people coming to this rally had especially targeted her and the Butterfly Center as a thing. So we closed for 3 days, and that was the first time. And we said that, and then they had this rally, and then people did show up. And you had a bunch of these Looney Tunes out there in front of the Butterfly Center, you know, live streaming themselves. You know, we're here at this, you know, place of all the sex trafficking. You know, here's a baby boot, you know, that they found semen from 21 different people inside the baby, and they're doing all this at the Butterfly Center. So the problem with all of this insanity is it often in the real world leads to, you know, unfortunately, really deadly consequences, as you know, from all the people that were killed at the Walmart in El Paso, which was, by the way, was right after one of these We Build the Wall rallies, which basically induced this guy to do it. And, you know, again, you may know that there was this big thing about called Pizzagate, where all of these same crazy people were saying that there was this pizza parlor in Washington, D.C., where Hillary Clinton ate babies and so forth. And all this guy became so incensed, he drove up from North Carolina with all these guns and shot up the place. Luckily there, I don't think anyone was killed. Or, you know, about the Tree of Life Synagogue and all of these things. So when we see these kind of statements being made, I think you have to take very seriously what the potential consequences are. And so the NABA board, let's see, here was some more. You know, the NABA board met soon right after this, and you know, we decided in the interest of everybody's safety, which was the most important thing, that we would close the Butterfly Center until we had consulted with security people and others to ascertain what was the best way to keep everybody safe going forward. And then once we did that and implemented the plan, we would reopen. And that's still our plan. And so, I don't know, you may have seen, there's, you know, I'm sure many of you have, there's been lots and lots of stories about this the last few days. We were front page of the New York Times on Sunday. And so,
just real quick, someone has shared that link in the chat. So if people want to go to it, that email address, that link is in the chat.
So that's where let me see if I can go back. Yeah. So here was there was a Boston guy. There were a million articles about it, and that's really, you know, where we are. So I hope I kind of explained the genesis of it in a way that was understandable. You know, and again, so we didn't really instigate any. It was just basically thrust upon us. The same thing, you know, the wall stuff. I mean, it's, you know, here you are, somebody is going to cut your kid in half. So you defend yourself. And the same thing with this We Build the Wall people. But the, you know, the consequences because of the crazy world we live in are very serious. And what we'd like nothing better than to get back to enjoying the fantastic butterflies that are there. That's really what we want to do. Let's see what we got. Okay, so that's what I'm done with that. You know, people can ask questions or whatever. I guess later if I haven't covered something that that you're interested in. I'm going to move on. Actually, in some way related to this. So again, we've had some article in the magazine, so you may know about it. Last year, we took possession of approximately 354 acres of land about just west of the National Butterfly Center. And on this Google aerial view, the Butterfly Center is right here. I'm direct. That's the part north of the canal. Then this is the canal. Then we also own this part here. In fact, we created a wetland down here. So we go to the river down here. There's a dock. We hope eventually to get this lobe, but that is currently owned by a guy named Mike Rhodes, who owns the land there. This, by the way, that El Murillo track that I showed you the picture, the drone photo of what they had done to it. That's right here. This is the El Murillo track, and this is where they've cleared all of that land. And then right here is Benson Rio Grande Valley State Park. Then, as you can see, not too far away is what was owned by the Nature Conservancy, and they had called it Chihuahua Woods. And we are renaming it Pixie Preserve. And there's actually two pieces to it, the vast majority of it, and another little piece separated here that actually is already south of the wall. So there is a wall along the levee here, and this little piece that we own, that NABA owns, is south of the wall, but all of this is north of the wall. This is a blow up, a closer view of a portion, a good portion of that same property. The blue lines are kind of existing trails, although most of them were, some of them were impassable, and most of them were, you know, not really all cleared. And we've been working on, since we took possession, of clearing the trails and making it all accessible. And we had to for example, take out an old bridge and put in a new one, that kind of thing. When the Nature Conservancy owned it, the main entrance was right here, which is actually on Chihuahua Road here. Is the main entrance. We are going to be changing that. So that the main entrance is going to be here off of Hoja de Agua Road on the west side. And let's see what else. The orange line is a transmission line easement that given to AEP, a power company. The red is just showing an area where we've already started planting native trees and so forth in it with a grant we got from, and I'll show you some more, from a group called the Apache Foundation. There's a lot of stuff at the Pixie Preserve. It's the last known nesting site in the United States for hook-billed kites. There's the best assemblage of native cactuses of any place in the Rio Grande Valley. There's many, many species, and when the main bloom is there, like in April, it's spectacular, and it's frankly what convinced me to take the place. When we first, and I should tell you, that was, you know, we were at a meeting of Texas foundations who were concerned about the environmental destruction being caused by the wall, and they wanted to see if they could do anything about it. I mean, this was many foundations. This is not one. It was, so most of the Texas foundations were at this meeting in Brownsville, and I was there, as was there. And at the meeting, I got to talking with the woman who represented the Nature Conservancy, and for reasons that I don't frankly completely understand, the Nature Conservancy was offloading numbers of properties that they had in Texas. We don't need to go into why. I mean, there wasn't anything particular about this property. They just had some issues about their own organization. And so they asked if we wanted this property, and I said, well, maybe, and so we wanted to see what was there. And as I say, the next day I went over there and saw this. It was April, and I saw this incredible cactus display, and so we said, oh, sure, yeah, we do. And
so Jeff, somebody asked why it was changed to Pixie Preserve. You have a story about that?
So say that one more time, Jeannie.
Why you changed the name to Pixie Preserve?
Well, the vast majority of people in the United States would be unable to spell Chihuahua Woods. Okay, that's first off. Okay, the vast majority. I understand there's a dog named Chihuahua and everything like that, but it doesn't. For most people, it doesn't. It didn't add anything to it. We hope to get red-bordered pixies there again. I don't know how many of you on this call know, but there's a butterfly that the only place in the United States where it's found is the Rio Grande Valley. And it's a spectacular butterfly called the red-bordered pixie. The last issue of American Butterflies, it was on the cover. If you got that and saw it, so that was that, and we also hope to. There's a fair number of people in North America who are into pixies. I mean, it's not like they necessarily really believe in pixies, but like the idea of pixies. And we're hoping that we can motivate some of them to visit the Pixie Preserve by having a theme and thus help us economically. So when we're doing this, we're always thinking about how are we going to make it sustainable? How are we going to have the funds that we need to run the place? And as I say, one thing here is we hope maybe that we will be able to capitalize on that. So that's the idea behind the name Pixie Preserve. And to me, and again, everyone's going to have different opinions about this, but to me and other people as well, Pixie Preserve sounds a little bit not cooler than Chihuahua Woods. So that's the answer to that question. So that's how we got it. And I say there's not neat things here. If you saw in the last issue, all the cactuses, there was that coach whip, that's snake. This is a photo, not completely in focus, but of a 4-line skink, which is pretty neat looking thing. And it's, again, it's endemic only to Texas and northern Mexico. So there's a lot of interesting things there.
Jeff, I'm going to interrupt for just a quick second.
Yeah.
Please remember, everybody, to mute your microphone so that Jeff, is the presenter, is seen on the screen. But if you do have a question, you can post it in chat, or you can unmute and ask the question. This is very informal, but we're just trying to have respect for the video and for the noises, the background noises.
So we've already been trying to do what we can at the site. We haven't had it that very long time, and this is a photo of our botanist, the National Butterfly Center botanist, Stephanie Lopez. That's her here, and she is leading a tour of the Pixie Preserve for a group of University of Texas Lower Rio Grande Valley students who are interning for credit, school credit, with the National Butterfly Center. So they come to the National Butterfly Center, they learn things, they do work, they do things, and they get school credit for that. So that's what that is. Let's see. This, as I mentioned, we had a grant from the Apache Foundation to plant various native trees, and that's what we did. I forget the number, but quite a few of them. These are basically volunteers. There's 2 different groups there, at least, I think, Hispanic engineering professionals is one, and another is the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley Environmental Awareness Club. So down at the Butterfly Center and now at the Pixie Preserve, there's lots of groups of people that volunteer to help in various ways. I mean, we have scout groups, we have Rotary groups, we have the local UPS people volunteer. So there's a lot of involvement with the local community, which I think is great. So there's that. One of the things we're going to be doing, of course, as we get this developed and we do the plantings and we create some structures, we're going to put up signage to teach people about what's there. This is an actual sign that's not at the Pixie Preserve. This is at the Butterfly Center, but this is the kind of thing that we would be putting up all over, teaching people what plants are there, what other things are there, so that they can appreciate more what they're seeing rather than it,
Jeff,
yes,
we had a question from Michael. I think Michael Bean had a question.
Yeah.
He has his hand up.
No, I didn't. Sorry. No.
Oh, okay.
No question. Okay, good.
All right. Good to have you here. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So all of that is great. You know, the plan is to make the 350 acres of the Pixie Preserve a fantastic place for butterflies, as well as for birds and bees and everything else, just as the Butterfly Center is, but even on a bigger scale. And again, the background, let me say, is that most of the real habitat in the lower Rio Grande Valley is gone. A huge percentage of it has been destroyed. And the woodlands and the thorn scrub and everything is no longer there. So this is an important part of trying to preserve the natural history of the lower Rio Grande Valley. But what I am especially interested in is this butterfly. And this is a photo of a dead butterfly, a museum specimen from the American Museum of Natural History that I took, named Manfreda giant skipper. And the reason I'm showing you a picture of a museum specimen rather than a photo of a live individual is because I don't have a photo of a live individual that I could show you. And not only that, I've never seen any photo of a live individual taken by anybody. And to my knowledge, there are only, let me see the next thing. Okay, so here, this butterfly was described in 1955 by H.A. Freeman, and it's been recorded from all of the counties that you can see there. So over quite an area. And one thing to note is this is where the Butterfly Center is. This is where the Pixie Preserve is, right here in Hidalgo County. That's Star, that's Hidalgo, that's Cameron. These three counties are have the lowest per capita income of any counties in the United States. And this is the lower Rio Grande Valley.
Jeff, someone just asked about the size of the Manfreda giant skipper. Can you give us an idea about the size?
Like this. No, it's probably like that. In other words, quite large for a skipper. Quite large for a skipper. Probably actually a little smaller than some giant skippers, but large for a skipper. But you know, not anything like a swallowtail or something like that. So you can see it was seen in many counties, but even by quite a few years ago, almost all of the known colonies were gone. And currently, there are only 2 known colonies. And those 2 known colonies are not publicly accessible, nor does almost anybody know where they are. There's about 3 people that know where they are. So it's a pretty dire situation. And as I said, you know, the fact is that where the Pixie Preserve is part of the historic range of the butterfly. And in fact, we do know of records from the area. So as you might think from the name Manfreda giant skipper, these butterflies, they feed on plants called Manfreda. And those are the only plants they eat. Unfortunately, Manfredas are few and far between. And Manfredas themselves are endangered. So one of the things what we're going to be doing is, this is a Manfreda. This is a Manfreda, I think it's longiflora. And what you can see is two things. One is the flower's stalk is quite beautiful. And so in addition to these things being environmentally stressed and being on land that's destroyed for other reasons, they are also the targets of collector people that go to grab them to sell them and, transplant them on their own property or sell them to others, which is not helping them survive in the wild either. So what we want to do is create habitat of substantial habitat and something like 30 to 50 acres of habitat for Manfreda giant skippers, where there are thousands of Manfreda plants, so that we can support a colony of Manfreda giant skipper going forward. And so we are growing Manfredas right now, but we're also trying to learn what are the conditions where they thrive and so forth. And as part of that effort, we initiated last year a survey to try to locate colonies of Manfreda giant skippers not Manfreda giant skippers, but of the Manfreda plants in South Texas. And we had, I don't know what the exact number is, 40, 50 volunteers that covered, went over many areas in South Texas, and both just private individuals, but also government employees. The man in the center is Chris Best, who's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service botanist for the state of Texas. There were people there from the state, the Texas Department of Wildlife, and also. And so we did better than we thought. We found actually quite a few colonies of Manfreda, most of them small, but we actually found 2 large colonies, one with maybe something like 500 plants in it. So we're quite excited about this, and we're working with an ecologist at University of Texas at Brownsville, who does plant restoration, to try to determine the soil, the chemical nature of the soil, and the habitat in these colonies, so that we can work to recreate those at the Pixie Preserve, so that we can get a thriving colony of the plants. And I will say that and this is a long-term project, it's not going to happen in the next year or two. It's going to take quite a while till we learn what we're doing, to be able to do the plants, to be able, before we have any hope of introducing butterflies, and we first have to make sure that we have a thriving plant community. But if we ultimately succeed in getting a colony of these butterflies there, I can tell you, if that happens before I die, I will die a happy man. Okay, so that's it for the Pixie Preserve. Then I think on our list also is something about what's happening with the butterfly counts. And I have some specific information about last year in a minute, but I just thought I'd start and say that the count data that you all generate by going out in the field and having fun and looking at butterflies is being used more and more by scientists to answer questions about butterfly populations and more. And so this is a paper that appeared in Science last year. I was a co-author. It used largely NABA count data. And as you can see, the conclusion was that butterflies have been declining steadily throughout Western United States, probably because of climate change as the main driver. And again, that's from data generated by all of you and others. Here's another paper about specifically about monarchs, again, that appeared fairly recently. And again, this used overwhelmingly NABA count data. So on to the counts from last year. Some of you might want to know, these are just sort of top line things. The count that had the most species of any count in the United States last year was the Chipinque La Venezuela count. Of course, it's not really fair because the count to the other counts, because it's in Mexico where there are more butterflies, and it had, but it's actually very close to the U.S. border. It's about, well, Chipinque La Venezuela, it might be 100 miles. It might be 100 miles from the border. It had 119 species. But the count that had the most individuals was in the Santa Rita Mountains of Arizona. Had 135,000 individuals because it was a gigantically wet year in Southeast Arizona, and it resulted in this amazing bloom of butterflies. To give you an idea, the previous year, if I remember the number right, the same count had 800 butterflies. So it's quite a difference. Included in the total, of course, most of them were American snouts, which you know have huge eruptions. The 83,000 American snouts was not a high count for snouts ever on account. There's been many more. But 22,000 dainty sulfurs and 17,000 tailed oranges are pretty amazing. Total of all counts, you see 461,000 butterflies were counted. That's a lot of butterflies to count. So again, thank you all. And almost 500 kinds of butterflies, species of butterflies were seen on these counts. Again, which is a pretty good deal for 1 year's effort on these things. Here's in fact a number of species had the highest number of individuals of that species ever recorded on the counts this past year. As you can see, the dainty sulfurs on the Santa Rita Mountains was one of them. But Santa Rita Mountains had the highest number of things you can see for a lot of species. This is the most ever seen on any U.S. count, and they really racked up a lot of records here. And you know, it's fun to look at these numbers, and if you look at them, especially when you get your count reports, if you've ordered them, some of you maybe, you can see these things, and then you can say, oh look, Hydaspes fritillary, that's a pretty spiffy looking fritillary. I'd love to see one of those. Where should I go? And then you notice, you say, wait a minute, Hydaspes fritillaries, the Butterfly Valley, California count had 1,270 on. If I go to Butterfly Valley, California, there's a pretty darn good chance I'm going to see Hydaspes fritillaries. So, you can go there. Likewise, you say, oh, northern blue, I live in Alabama or whatever. Where am I going to see a northern blue? Well, you just go to Bluff Creek, Minnesota, and they had 1,580 of them. So again, your chances seem pretty good. And if you live in Maryland or something where Compton tortoiseshells, by the way, it's Compton tortoiseshell, not Comptons. It's named for a city in Canada, not a person. Let's see, where was that? Here we go. You also go to Minnesota. By the way, you see there's two of those that I just showed. You go to Minnesota. Minnesota's a nice place. Just don't go sleep on a couch or something like that. But they had 1,000 of the Compton tortoiseshells there, and that would be the place to go. So seriously, I don't know about you, but oftentimes in the past when I've wanted to see a butterflies, I look at the count results and say, well, look at this, there's tons of them there. Let's go there. And it's a good excuse to go somewhere. So I think that, let's see, that's the count. So that's the section on the counts. And then I think we're going to finish up, well, pretty much with the Florida butterfly movement. There again, I don't know how much of you all know, but I've started this initiative in Florida, the Florida butterfly movement. Southern Florida has probably the largest number of endangered and threatened butterfly species of any place in the United States. So we're especially concerned about that. And this is, I think, off of the website we've created for that. This is showing some pine rockland areas in South Florida. You can see it's stretching from Miami down through Homestead on this area. There's pine rockland on the Keys also. The problem with the Keys is they're about to disappear under rising sea levels. So long term, the Keys are not a great area to preserve things on. So there are these areas. Here's a pine rockland area. This is the pine rocklands have a number of endemic butterflies. They also have endemic plants and bats and other things. But for our purposes, they have some endemic butterflies, including the Florida leafwing shown here, which is only found in pine rockland, and the caterpillars feed on a plant called pineland croton. And another butterfly that's here is Bartram scrub hairstreak. This is a photo from Navy Wells where there's a colony of Bartram scrub hairstreak, one of the few that's remaining. Again, the photo it's on a pineland croton actually, and the only plant the caterpillars of this eat also are pineland crotons. So both the Florida leafwing and this, but there's other butterflies there, Florida dusky wings and so forth. So we're very interested in the pine rockland habitat. Go back. And what we really want to do, what we really set out to do, is purchase a significant parcel of land that either had existing pine rockland or on which we could recreate pine rockland. And the problem with that is that land in South Florida is extremely expensive. So for us to be able to move forward with that, we need to raise literally millions of dollars. And to be frank, so far we haven't been able to do that. I hope to be able to going forward, but so far we haven't. So for the moment, we're focusing on Plan B. And Plan B is to work, the Miami-Dade County owns various parcels of land which they've designated as eel lands for environmentally endangered land. And some of that land was historically pine rockland. And so we are working with Miami-Dade County and others, including Fairchild Tropical Gardens and a group called Institute for Regional Conservation, to take some of the land owned by Miami-Dade County and recreate pine rockland habitat on it. And we're trying to do that on some land that's reasonably close to like existing colony of Bartram scrub hairstreak, so that we can create a larger population of them, and as a way to protect against something happening to the existing ones. So that's that's kind of what we're focusing on there at the moment. And this was just, oh yeah, so I mentioned Fairfield Tropical Garden and the Institute and the Miami-Dade County. Also, there's a marketing company in Southern Florida, in Miami, named Forethought Marketing, which is working pro bono for us, donating about $80,000 worth of their time and effort on helping us do marketing and reaching out to the public in ways that are relevant to this project. So that's pretty amazing also. That's about it. I want to end on something completely different. This is a photo from that Times article I was telling you about that was in Sunday's paper, which was a fairly accurate, I mean, as these things go, depiction, and there's the wrong word, pretty accurate narrative of what was going on. But they had this photo with this caption. And what I want to urge all of you to do is whenever you see something that looks like that, to write or call and complain that they need to stop talking like babies, okay? The name of this butterfly is not Gulf fritillary butterfly. It's Gulf fritillary. And more, all of these people have picked up from hobbyist butterfly collectors this thing about calling them, you know, a hair streak butterfly, this. And it's pathetic. No other, you know, go search in your life and you'll see nobody ever refers to endangered least tern birds or say, oh, the robin birds that are in my yard, okay, or whatever. It's just pathetic. And that is not their name. It's not Gulf fritillary. If you can't tell that's a butterfly, too bad. Or you say it's a butterfly if you think they do. But its name is not Gulf fritillary butterfly. So I'm urging all the people on this thing, whenever you see that, which you will all the time, complain. Say this is absurd. And I think, oh wait, okay, and that's almost it. One very last thing. Some people, they have some difficulties in accessing the NABA digital publications, American Butterflies and Butterfly Gardener, which are available to members as digital things online. And also, we have a feature of membership called NABA Talk. We can see it. And so what I just want you to know is you can learn how to do these. We don't want to take up the time here because we've run late, but you can learn how to do these by going to going to YouTube. You know, put in youtube.com and searching for North American Butterfly Association, and you'll get the few videos that we currently have up. It's going to be growing, and you'll see that one of them will be how to access your digital publications or how to access NABA Talk. So,
hey Jeff. Yeah, Mike just put in the link. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, and yes, and Mike Sabone, who is our digital web guy, has been doing all that stuff, and thanks to him, he's the guy that actually put it up there and did it. So thank you, Mike.
Do you want to look at the chat? We'll see if we've got other questions.
Sure. So that's it. You know, and then if you have other questions beside right this minute, you can always send an email to info@naba.org, and Jeannie will be thrilled to answer them.
We've got one from Lori here that would like to know when the center will open again.
So we don't have a date. I'm hoping it's not too long. Really, again, I will restate this. We are in the process of trying to engage a security firm. We've been talking to a number of people, individuals, and corporations, that do security work and so on. We have not yet engaged one. This has all happened very quickly. And so what we need to do is engage one of these firms or individual consultants, whatever ultimately is decided, and then get their advice. How long that will take, I don't know. I'm hopeful it won't be too long. I mean, like a week or two, maybe, and get their advice and then try to implement their advice. I mean, depending on what their advice is. I mean, if their advice is you have to have 100 soldiers stationed there all the time, we're not going to be able to implement that. But I think that there are going to be steps that we can take that make it much safer. So, but that's what we're waiting on, is getting the advice about what do we need to do to make the environment safe, and then going ahead and doing that so that we have made the environment safe. And so I can't give you a timeline. We're going to do it as quickly as we can, and it may very well be. I mean, if it takes longer than we think or anything like that, it may be that that staff works out of the Pixie Preserve, perhaps.
Another couple of questions, Jeff. People are asking how they can help. And one thing I will say as a development professional, as well as the vice president, send money. We'd like to keep paying the staff in Texas. We'd like to be able to pay for security measures that need to be taken and new lights and things. And someone asked if we are getting donations, and we have been getting a few donations. Social media has really caught fire these last couple of weeks. So thanks to Mike and Laura, and I'm working on that too. And it's great to get the word out about what's going on and how people can help. You had suggested other ways people can help, Jeff, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and before I do that, I just want to add to what Jeannie said, is that, when you say we need to still pay people, we are, although we're closed, and we will be closed for, I say certainly another week, we are paying all employees their normal wages while we're closed. And I will also add that during the pandemic, for example, all sorts of sources of revenue dried up. For example, the Butterfly Center, one major source of revenue was school groups visiting, and visiting, and the parents buying things at the gift shop and so forth. And that all went away 100% for the last 2 years, 0 school groups. And on a couple of occasions, the Butterfly Center had to close because of the pandemic now, even by order of the state of Texas, not directed at the Butterfly Center, just a general thing. And through all of that, we've always paid staff 100% of their what they would have gotten before. So, we're interested in butterflies, but we very much care about people as well. So, as Jeannie said—
Can I address a couple of things really quick, Jeff? We are looking into funding to help us pay for security measures and for the assessment. Some of that funding from Homeland Security, though, won't be available until the fall. Someone else asked about whether we were keeping track with vandalism and that kind of thing on the property. Maybe you could answer that.
So to date, to the best of my knowledge to date, there has been no vandalism except by Texas National Guard and Border Patrol, who are constantly destroying our property. Okay, so that's historically, that has nothing to do with the current situation. But in terms of actual vandalism from the general public, related to this situation, to date, there hasn't been any. While we are closed, we do have people stop in, and we do have Mission Police Force has stationed what they call this eye in the sky. It's a surveillance device that looks around and monitors the situation. And we do have patrol people there and so forth. So, as I say, knock on wood here, we found some. To date, there hasn't been any. In terms of
Oh, I
what people can
interrupted you.
do,
Yeah, you were going to say about what people could do, and I interrupted. So I'll
Yeah,
let you continue that.
in terms of what you could do, I mean, as Jeannie says, I mean, the most straightforward thing is if you have the resources, if you have money, obviously that's extremely useful because we need to pay people and do things. But if you don't have that, then I would say that the most useful thing you can do is, as much as you can, spread the word about the situation. Let other people know, and you're both political representatives, but also just anyone else you know about it, because maybe you'll reach other people that do want to help us. So as much as you make known the plight of the Butterfly Center and butterflies, that can be helpful.
Somebody just asked about are we accepting memberships?
Jeannie, I'm not hearing you.
Sorry, we are still accepting memberships. Somebody asked that. We are still accepting memberships to NABA and to the NBC. So people can join. There's an opportunity to donate that is online. And also, if you wanted to mail a check to New Jersey to the 4 Delaware office address. There's another question. Where do the donations get sent? The donations support the staff and the programs. And like Jeff said, with the NBC
Are they asking where to
closed,
send the donations, or how the money is being used? Which is it?
well, that may be the
If you're asking where to send it,
where
you
to
can
send
send-
it, Joan says.
Okay, well, you can send it to 4 Delaware Road. That's one, to NABA, and you can specify whatever you want. You can make it a general donation, or you can say it's specifically for this reason, or whatever. Or you could donate at the Butterfly Center too, and become, that's another way to do it. So whichever is easiest for you, or whichever feels better to you. Frankly, at the end of the day, it all does the same thing.
We have one more question about the biennial meeting. Have there been plans about that?
Yeah, so as I think it was on the back cover, I think, of the last issue of, is it? No, it's not on the back cover, but there's an ad there somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. And oh no, I won't be able to put it up on the screen as easily. But anyway, it's going to be in Texas at the Butterfly Center in the very end of October, early November. And I'm, off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact dates, but like that. And that's where it's going to be. I don't know why. I thought there was an ad in here. I'm just pretty sure there was, but I'm not.
There probably will be in the next one. One more question was about recording. We are recording this, and it will be available for viewing here in about a week or so. Takes us a little while to edit it and make it into a video. We had great participation tonight, 242 people attending. And we appreciate our staff, Laura and Mike and Jim and Jeff, being part of the call.
I want to add one thing. I just want to say, again, for a small organization, I think it's fair to say we're doing a lot. And I think you should all look at everything that's done, I hope, and feel proud about yourselves, because it's all being done because of you, because of your support, your interest, your membership. You're the people that are making it happen. So I hope you feel good about that and proud of yourselves.